amendment they wish to offer.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call up Hawley Amendment number 1, which is MIR 21E35, which addresses the jurisdiction of the Special Inspector General for Pandemic Recovery. As my colleagues will remember, when we enacted the CARES Act, we provided unprecedented sums of money to help Americans through the pandemic, and as part of that package, we created the Special Inspector General for Pandemic Recovery, or SIGPR, to investigate the unfortunate but inevitable attempts to defraud these government programs. And at the time, many senators, including myself, believed that we'd authorize SIGPR to investigate all of Treasury's pandemic programs. However, the current administration has severely narrowed SIGPR's jurisdiction. This office hasn't received any further appropriations since its creation in 2020. I think it's important that we promote IG independence, and in this case, put some teeth back into SIGPR and its jurisdiction. Just a couple of examples of things that SIGPR, I think, should attend to. I've recently called on SIGPR and the Department of Treasury to investigate whether airlines violated the terms of their loans when they laid off employees who were refusing to submit to President Biden's vaccine mandate. In August of last year, 28 senators and myself wrote a letter to SIGPR asking that office to investigate Planned Parenthood's receipt of funds through the Paycheck Protection Programs. And it was shortly thereafter, I might note, that the Biden Department of Justice, OLC, Office of Legal Counsel, issued an opinion concluding SIGPR lacked jurisdiction over that program, and then, as I said, has declined to further fund SIGPR since then. So this amendment would make a jurisdictional fix. It would restore SIGPR's jurisdiction so they can investigate fraud of all Treasury programs. And I would just note, we've made similar jurisdictional fixes to other pandemic oversight entities, including the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee. I think it's important that we support the independence of the IGs that we have created and make sure that whatever political pressures they're facing, they are able to conduct the investigations that this body has authorized them to do. So with that, I offer this amendment, Mr. Chairman, and I ask for a vote.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. I would like to offer a second-degree amendment to Hawley Amendment number 1. Senator Hawley's amendment would appropriate funding for and expand the jurisdiction of the Special IG for pandemic response, and I think there's no question in anybody's mind here in this panel that pandemic response oversight is critically important, but we just simply haven't had the requisite time to review this particular amendment. This issue deserves serious attention. But we have to also bear in mind that there are already significant oversight processes in place now. In fact, I worked closely with Senator Johnson in creating a PRAC to oversee the response, the pandemic response, to make sure that we have full accounting for it. The IGs are engaged in that. The general GAO is involved in it. And to date, already several hundreds of reports have been released by all three of those agencies, providing information and oversight along the lines of the oversight that Senator Johnson and I worked on in the previous Congress. My amendment would basically require the GAO to conduct a review of pandemic oversight to identify any gaps in any needed funding. If there are some gaps that exist in a very extensive oversight effort right now, we need to fill those gaps, but I think we should do that based on information provided to us by the GAO, and therefore I'd urge my colleagues to join me in supporting my second-degree amendment. Is there any other discussion on the
question? Mr. Chairman, if your second degree is support is adopted, do I understand that you're going to then vote for the underlying amendment by Mr. Hawley?
If your amendment is this would become the amendment. Yes.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Thanks very much.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Ranking Member Portman.
Yeah. My understanding is it would replace the IG with the GAO report, and I support what Senator Hawley is trying to do because I think it's important that the IG have access to the information that I think we all expected they would. I think it's consistent with the original congressional intent with regard to the IG. And the pandemic recovery ought to include all the funds that were distributed under the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the Payroll Support Program, the Paycheck Protection Program. So I think that's appropriate, and the Special IG is best equipped to do that. So I would support the underlying amendment and not try to nullify it by inserting the GAO into this process. GAO has its role to play as well, and I hope that we'll do that. But we need to have an IG that's devoted to this topic. So I would, I know, again, you're trying to find a compromise here, but I would support the underlying amendment.
Mr. Chairman, if no one,
Senator Hawley.
yeah, I want to thank you for your interest in this, Mr. Chairman. I do say I respectfully urge a no vote on your amendment. It would essentially gut my amendment. I just want to make the point here is that since Congress passed the CARES Act and created SIGPER, I just want to be clear that SIGPER was created previously as part of the CARES package. So we're not creating something new here. But since that time, the current administration has significantly narrowed, in a legal opinion, narrowed the jurisdiction of SIGPER and taken things out of SIGPER's jurisdiction. I think that's problematic. And again, the office hasn't received any funding since 2020. I think that's problematic. And the chairman's amendment wouldn't allow us to address either of those things. So for those reasons, I'll respectfully oppose your amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Ossoff.
would you please restate the nature of the objection to Senator Hawley's amendment?
The objection is that we already have a significant number of agencies overseeing the expenditure of these funds, including the PRAC that was put into place in the previous Congress that I worked on with Senator Johnson. We also have IGs engaged in this as it is now, as well as the GAO. There may be gaps that we have to fill, and we should fill those gaps. My amendment would task the GAO to review how all these agencies are coordinating, if they are coordinating in a responsible way and in an efficient way, and if there aren't, there would be those gaps would be filled. But we do have an awful lot of oversight. We're spending an awful lot of money on oversight, as we should. But until we know there's really a problem, right now this is the Hawley Amendment is a solution in search of a problem. We'd like to identify what is the exact problem and then deal with that problem specifically.
Thank you.
So seeing no further debate on the Peters second-degree amendment,
We have a roll call, Mr. Chairman.
roll call has been requested. The clerk will read, or will call the roll.
Senator Carper.
Aye.
Senator Hassan. Aye. Senator Sinema. Aye. Senator Rosen. Aye. Senator Padilla. Aye. Senator Ossoff. Aye. Senator Portman.
No.
Senator Johnson. No. Senator Paul.
No by proxy.
Senator Langford. No. Senator Romney. No. Senator Scott. No. Senator Hawley. No. Senator Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, on the vote of those present, the yeas are 7, the nays are 6. On the vote by proxy, the yeas are 0, the nays are 1. On this vote, the yeas are 7, the nays are 7. The amendment is not agreed to.
The amendment is not agreed to.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say briefly to the sponsor of the amendment that I'd be pleased to look at this more closely as legislation proceeds and have a chance to re-engage on it. Thank you.
And
Mr. Chairman, if I might as well.
Senator Ossoff.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman, first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I take the chairman's views seriously as this legislation's been carefully negotiated, and I know there's a plan for moving it toward final passage, so I'm going to vote with the chair on this vote, but I want to express the same sentiment that Senator Carper has, which is a desire to work with you, Senator Hawley, to ensure that the relevant IG and IGs do have all of the jurisdiction and visibility they need to conduct effective oversight.
And I'll concur, Senator Hawley. As I reached out, we chatted to try to find some middle ground here. It's not that this is not a critical issue. It is, and I appreciate your attention to it. And clearly, we want to make sure that comprehensive oversight is being conducted. So we'll continue to work closely with you, and there will certainly be other opportunities for us to move forward with this going in the future. But I would urge my colleagues to vote no on the amendment now, particularly given the fact we have, I would hope, a carefully crafted bill that we would like to get into the National Defense Authorization as well because of the importance of what we're dealing with. So with that, a roll call has been requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Carper. No. Senator Hassan. No. Senator Sinema. No. Senator Rosen. No. Senator Padilla. No. Senator Ossoff. No. Senator Portman.
Aye.
Senator Johnson.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Langford. Aye. Senator Romney. Aye. Senator Scott. Aye. Senator Hawley. Aye. Senator Peters.
No.
Mr. Chairman, on the vote of those present, the yeas are 6, the nays are 7. On the vote by proxy, the yeas are 0, the nays are 1. On this vote, the yeas are 7, the nays are 7. The amendment is not agreed to.
Hawley Amendment Number 1 is not adopted. Does any other member wish to offer an amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Ranking Member Portman.
We talked earlier about the briefing that we had